All right, so, and again, in Illustrator, we've been through a lot of these techniques before, but I just want to review some of these techniques. And I've got way too many artboards, but that's okay. When you're starting to try to build something that's very, balanced and very sort of simple, I always start with my basic tools in Illustrator, my basic shapes, my foundation sort of shapes, which can be a rectangle, which can also be any of these tools, really. Okay, these tools are, let me see what's up with that. I have no idea why that tool is doing that. Under my object commands, I can also go to objects and path. A vector is considered a path, and once I go to the path options, some of the things that I've done with it before is to simplify it. And of course this circle's not very complex at all. Let me see, what's one of the other ones we've worked with? Maybe it's under effect. Oh, there it is. Under effect, and I've got a lot of different things that I can do to the actual vector. One of them I like to do is pucker and bloat. And again, the idea with this is just trying to get unique forms to work with. I can go either direction with this. One direction being the pucker, the other direction being the bloat. I'm more interested in this more pointy shape right here. So let's say I want to do something with that form right there. If you do any of these effects to these objects, you're going to see that they don't look right. And what you have to do to objects once they're in these states is you got to always remember to expand their appearance. If it looks like this, it's got some sort of filter on it, that means you need to expand its appearance. To do that, that's an object command. So I'm going to go to Object and expand its appearance. And it looks, unfiltered. It looks like the pure vector that you're working with. Of course, you can also do a lot of this same stuff, if not in the Distort and Transform palette, you can also go directly to the Warp palette. You've got a lot more options right in the Warp palette. And again, the idea is to get a unique form. When you make the foundation crest or ground for your design, you got to do something interesting to sort of contain it all. And that's what we're trying to do, just trying to get something interesting it's like a plate, sort of, for your design. You want to get it all sort of put together in some sort of way that's going to be interesting. And there are lots of options here. Possibly if we're going with the idea of doing a vintage, crest or a representational mark, maybe you're going to want to arc the lower elements of it or the top elements of it, sort of flatten the top or the bottom of it. Flat lines and rectangular shapes are more organized, they're more stable, whereas curvy forms are more organic. They have a different mood and a different feeling to them. So really be mindful of that as you are trying to get some different shapes out of for your design. So let's just say I go with this, and again, once I get a form that I want to work with, you do want to expand its appearance. But then after that, you can go further to sort of emphasize, to sort of strengthen through repetition what your design is doing. So right now, this design or this object right now, let me just, for the sake of illustration, give it a yellow fill, and then let's just give it a blue outline color. And what I'm going to first do on this is increase the stroke color. This is real useful. This is real useful because inevitably you're probably going to need to put an outline color around something that you're working on. but there are some real useful tricks for doing that. Actually, I never put a stroke on a top version of a shape. I always put my stroke on a copy that I place behind the top one. Notice on this object, if I go to my stroke palette, notice I can align the stroke. I can tell the stroke to go a couple of different directions. Right now it's going two directions. It's going inward and outward. But I can tell it to only go inward, and I can also tell it to only go outward. And it really makes a difference, especially if you're using a text element. If you're using a text element, which is the default way that your stroke is going to work on a text element, it's going to go both directions. And that actually can get rid of some of the legibility of your text object. So again, the way that I like to work with this is instead I put my strokes on an object that's in the background. So what I would do with this selected object is copy it. Then I'm going to paste it behind itself. And to do that, I can do Control B to paste it behind itself. But you can see it right there. It's Control B to paste a copy of it behind itself. And I can even move those temporarily. And then the top one, again, I turn the stroke off. And then that way, it really doesn't, there's no way it could interfere with, coming in. Even if the stroke was aligned both directions, it's not going to interfere. And again, if you do offset or move objects, if you want to put them back in perfect alignment, remember, anytime you've got two objects selected, you can align them. But I personally think this form is more interesting offset a little bit versus.
When you're finalizing your product, are you going to delete that movement to the back, or are you just going to join them all together?
No, there's no need. I'll leave them as is. And you would find, yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, a shop would want it to be all of those objects. I mean, I can always output an image an image is just a bunch of pixels, but these vectors, it's better to have all of those vectors in there. I mean, if you go to, I showed you guys where you could go and look for SVGs, Normally, you're going to find all of the SVGs are still there, stacked, and you could take them apart and do stuff like that. So, no, you don't ever want to just make everything into one. It's better, it's just like a car engine or any other analogy. You still need all those parts there to sort of work with. Let me show you something else that's real useful as you're doing some of this design work. You may come into an instance where you actually need this outer line right here. Right now, this outer line is only rendered. It's not really there. If I go to Outline View, Control Y, we can see that that rendered stroke line is not really there. But you may end up needing it. So there's a way that you can actually, make this a vector that you can work with. And the way you do that, real simply, it's an object command. And again, it's got to do with expansion of the vector. A lot of the stuff we do with these vectors, we're rendering effects and filters. But sometimes you need to make them literal. So the way that I can make that stroke literal is I go to expand. And I get two options here. Do I want to expand just the fill or just the stroke? Or both? And you can do both. So I'm just going to do both here. And we can see now that I actually have an edge out here. And I could right-click, ungroup that result, ungroup that one. And again, like I said, potentially, that can be very useful to actually, expand that element. And it can also make you a new individual shape that you might be able to use. So in a nutshell, everybody, break down your elements. Like you guys should be looking for representational objects. Like we're talking about Skills USA. Maybe that's gears, maybe that's hammers, maybe that's compasses, maybe, I don't know. You guys, this project is a research project too. So you really got to look at what is going to represent these various skills that you're trying to design logos and stuff for. But then how do you put all of that together in a sort of creative way? One more thing, let me show you how to do what they have right here. See where that has the edges around it, you know, all the points like that? That's pretty easy. There's one right here. It's a lot further back. But and also this, I want to show you how they do these radiating lines right here. Let me show you those two things real quick. And I will actually just do it out of this form right here. Let me look at that again. Oh yeah. Okay. So if I wanted this to have jagged edges all around it, I'm going to go to Effect, Distort and Transform, and Zigzag. Zigzag, zigzag. And first thing I'm going to do is hit Preview. And I mean, again, it's pretty easy to do. I can control the, you know, do I want a high frequency zigzag or do I want a larger low frequency zigzag? And I want a high frequency. You know, and again, after you do it, always expand the appearance of that vector because right now it's only rendered. So if I was finished with the look that I got out of that, I'm going to expand the appearance of it. Let's say I wanted to make radiating lines. This is a little bit more interesting. If I go again to my my stroke palette, and let's give it a black outline. To get radiating lines out of this, I actually need a dash line around my object. So I'm going to select dash, and you can, if I click off, I can see my dashes, but those dashes are too big. I want smaller dashes. So right now they're a 12-point dash. I'm going to do a 2-point dash. And I'm going to hit Enter. And we can see those might be too small. But already, you know, line leads the eye, pattern leads the eye. You know, already it's creating this idea of leading and moving the eye around the object. If I want to spread those apart, I can also do that because I have a dash, a gap, a dash, and a gap. I could fill all of that in, but I'm just going to put a 2, but I could also go 0.02. I could make my gaps smaller or larger. But if I want to increase the size of these, I go back to my regular and default stroke option here, which is the weight. And I can start to, and what happens is this object really is really effective in leading the eye. And maybe I only wanted it to be outside the area out there. I don't really want it to go interior right there. So what I would do to solve that is Control C to copy it, Control F to paste a copy of it in front. And now the one in front, I don't want the dash around anymore, so I'm going to get rid of the stroke color. And then I'm going to just give it whatever interior color I might want on it. And again, your goal, your role as a designer is to communicate for whoever you're working for and to get attention. And these effects, you know, you do want to base your design off of some sort of visual effect that really is strong and really captures attention. So, so again, do look through, I suggest Vintage Logos, Vintage Crest, and you know, design is not a new preoccupation or anything. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you certainly don't want to do stuff that's not going to read well for you.